Majority of us are fully aware that the human brain is the most crucial or important part of the human biological system, and that's why it forms part of the central nervous system. And so when any other part of the body becomes impaired, man can still live and achieve his purpose. That's why we have physically challenged people who can still function normally. And in fact, history has given us examples of individuals who have, transcended their physical challenges, but because of the function of the brain, they were able to still live their life meaningfully on earth. And so that makes the human brain very important because it processes information and then is responsible for almost every activity that takes place, any human physical activity. Closely related to the brain is the mind, and that is where we talk about. And that's where we always talk about the mindset, because the brain is the physical matter that we can see, but the mind is the immaterial aspect of the brain. Normally, if I'm explaining the mind, I use the phone as an example. If you take your phone now, you note that you have the memory of the phone, just as the human brain also have the memory function. So what happens is that all your data, all your information that you have, you store it or you keep it on the phone memory. But because of the fact that you can lose your phone or your phone can get damaged, you want to back up your data, and that is where you have access to either Google Cloud or the iCloud. And this is where you deliberately sync your memory to the cloud system by having access to your password and your Gmail and your iCloud. So what happens is that you don't see the cloud. You don't see the cloud, yet you believe that your data is stored. So the moment you get a new phone, all you have to do is just to install your Gmail and then make sure you get your password, and then you can download the data. Now the question is, where is the data? Can you see the data in the cloud? Can you see the cloud system? You cannot see it, but you believe and you know that it's there because you have a phone that can have access to it. That is the same thing that happens to the human mind. The mind is that part of the brain that is unseen, yet every information that is processed through our cognitive processes, whether we are conscious of it or unconscious of it, is transmitted to the mind. And once it gets into the mind, when we feed on that particular information for long, it becomes our dominant thought pattern. And then it moves on to our subconscious mind, or that subconscious level, which relates with the cosmos. Now, when we talk of the cosmos is the embodiment of the universe, matter, atom, space, anything that you can think of in the world forms part of the cosmos, both the seen and on the unseen. And as a human being, the mind is so powerful that it has access to the cosmos. It is only the human mind that can have access to the cosmic realities or the cosmic possibilities. And that is why it is very important that you have control, because whether you like it or not, you will create certain realities consciously or unconsciously. And so if you take the brain, what the brain does is that the brain gathers external stimuli, or it gathers information through the various sensory organs. So whatever we see every single day, whatever we hear, whatever we smell, whatever we taste, or whatever we feel registers within our brain. And so for instance, when you see something, that is an external stimuli. it gets into the brain, and then if you start processing those images that you've seen, consciously or unconsciously, then it becomes part of what we call your belief system. And the more you feed on that particular information, and then you mix it with emotions, because they often say that emotions set your thoughts in motion. And so once your emotional dimension also comes to play and mixes with that thought impulse, then that thought impulse registers within your subconsciousness. And be sure that whether you are conscious or unconscious, that thought pattern will gather the relevant forces within the cosmos, and one day that thought will become a reality. Let me just give you an example. Let's just say that in a conversation you hear that you cannot make it in Ghana. That is an information that probably your friends or you may have read somewhere on the internet. This is a typical example that you have been exposed to an information that you cannot make it in Ghana. Now what happens is that once you feed on that particular information, which is an external stimuli through your auditory organ, that is your ears, you have heard it, you are now going to process that information at the cognitive level. And what you're going to do now is that you're going to look for evidence to support or disprove that particular statement. And so what happens is that you have the tendency to have a certain bias to that particular information, that yet you cannot make it in Ghana, because throughout your growing up or throughout your youthful experiences, you may also have picked up other relevant information that justifies that particular idea that you cannot make it in Ghana unless you leave this country. So the more you feed on these thoughts, first, that information or that signal is sent throughout the entire physiological system. Every cell, every molecule, every atom in your body will now begin to accept that you cannot make it in this geographical space. That is what happens first. Then the more you feed on that particular thought, it gets into the subconsciousness, which also gathers relevant negative forces that disempowers you emotionally. It kills all your emotional senses. It kills all your creative energies that you could have explored to make it in Ghana. That particular information will kill all these possibilities that were available for you to tap. So what happens is that thought becomes your reality. It creates the energy around you, and you will live that life thinking that what you heard was true. However, it is the belief system and the processes that you went through to build your energies around it that has made that statement true, because that statement in itself was neutral. If you believe that it is true, then it is true. If you believe that it is not true, then it is not true. That is how the human mind works. And these are some of the conversations that we're having on this platform. We will be picking up certain thought patterns that over the years have become the basis of our thinking, and that indirectly have become part of our belief system, and also registers within our higher cognitive and mental dimensions, and also being submitted to our subconscious mind, which relates with the entire cosmos, and that we are creating that reality, thinking that what we heard was true. But in actual fact, it is our belief system that has created that reality. What if you hear such information that yes, you cannot make in Ghana, but you are able to look at the other side, that why can't I make it in Ghana? And instead of building your energies around that information that you cannot make it in this country, what if you gave yourself the chance to look for other possibilities that yes, I can make it here? Why can't you look at that possibility? Because the moment you challenge that notion that no, I can still make it here because there are people who have made it in Ghana. Once you do that, you send a signal to the entire physiological system, and it accepts the fact that yes, there is a possibility for you to make it in this country. Now, once you believe that, you now make efforts to gather information, to gather relevant knowledge that supports that ideology, that supports that assumption, that supports that belief system that you can make it in Ghana. You have to be intentional about it. You have to be deliberate about it, to feed on information, to gather relevant knowledge that supports that belief system. Even if you believe in the possibility of you making it in Ghana and you consciously feed on negative information, it will now challenge that assumption and creating doubts. And when that sets in, you now begin to doubt yourself, and it will neutralize your energy, and you cannot make it in Ghana here. And so once you have the belief that yet it is possible for you to make it in Ghana, and you gather relevant evidence, gather relevant information, engage in the right conversation, speak to the right people, be among the right company or the right relationships to feed on that belief system, if it becomes your dominant thought pattern that yes, you can make it in Ghana here, then it is not only your physiological system, every atom, every molecule, every fiber, every strand of fiber in your body will accept that message. Also, because it becomes your dominant pattern at the subconscious level, it will also gather the relevant energies and the relevant forces in the cosmos that will make that idea a reality. And someday you will make it in Ghana. That is how the human mind works. It's very important. But unfortunately, most of us live our lives by default. We go through life unconsciously allowing the brain to pick so many informations, allowing the brain to unconsciously program them without we taking active part in the programming. And then the more it becomes a dominant thought in our pattern, it unconsciously creates the life that we don't deserve, when we could actually live consciously by design, by making sure we control the portals of access to information, which is the brain, feeding on the right information, working with the right people who at least says the right thing, being part of an ecosystem where you focus on the possibilities of life rather than engaging in disempowering conversation. When that happens, you shift your whole life on a different trajectory, and then you will live to see the impact of that thought pattern. That is how the mind works.